All right, welcome aboard, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging tight. Craig Carlton here with Connected Investors. I'm excited to be here tonight with John Bowens. Hey, John, welcome aboard, my friend. How are you tonight?
I'm good, Craig. Thanks for having me. Excited about tonight.
Yeah, this is going to be a good session. I'm excited. We had a little technical difficulty, but we're good now. So thank you for holding on. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Before I do that, though, I do want to recognize everybody that's on our call. You know, you all could be anywhere tonight. You know, the hundreds of you that have signed up and have joined us tonight. We want to make sure that we recognize you. So on the right-hand side in your control panel, there's going to be a little questions box. It'll just say questions. If you will pop that out, do me a favor. Give me two pieces of information. The first thing I want you to do is to say hi. Give us a where are you located tonight? So David is in Dallas and Cyril is in Baton Rouge. You tell me where you are tonight. And then one other favor, if this is your first session that you've ever attended, type in the number 1. If you've been here before and you've seen one of our sessions, type in the number 2. And then I like to just give everybody a second. So we'll say hi. Looks like Samuel is in Alaska. Amazing, Samuel. I was in Alaska when I was 12 or 13 years old. We spent 3 weeks with the family. Amazing time, beautiful country. And no, everybody asks you, oh, is it cold there right now? The answer is it is not cold right now. It's actually quite warm. I love that. So good stuff. Looks like you've been here before. Andy, thank you for showing up. We have Teddy coming in from Washington, D.C. So stay safe, my friend, where you are there. David's in Salt Lake City, and Jason is in Tennessee. I've got John in Las Vegas. Look at you guys are all over the place. I love that. It's so cool that when we do these sessions, you know, we get people that are coming in from all over the country, right? So it's like 8 o'clock here on the East Coast, but folks are just getting off work on the West Coast. And you know, you guys could be doing anything. You're here, and I'm honored by that. So thanks for showing up. Good stuff. So if I didn't mention your name, I apologize, but trust me, you're in my thoughts. What I want to do is get started. So where I'm not going to be doing a big PowerPoint tonight, I'm going to have a couple of quick slides. I wanted to introduce you to our guest, John. And then the other thing was, if you do we do have a free trial of the software. Tonight's conversation is not going to be about the Connected Investor software. We're going to have a different conversation, but we do want to let you know that we do have a free trial. So I don't know if you are seeing that page. It doesn't look like it changed on the screen view. Let me see if I'm doing that right. It looks like something was paused there. There we go. So yeah, so you saw that first slide. Here's the QR code if you want to. Just hold your phone up. You'll be able to get to that website. It's basically connectedinvestors.com. You can start that free trial. We've got 7 days. And then I think there's a special that if you do this now, you're going to get 2,500 skip traces as part of your subscription for the life of the subscription. So that's a really good deal on that. So definitely take advantage of it. Let me do a quick introduction to John. I want to talk nicely about him. So John is one of the most sought after, respected educators in the self-directed IRA industry, partly due to his unique ability to make complex issues or to take them and break them down into simple to understand terms. As director, the head of education and investor at Equity Trust Company, John draws from 15 years experience in real estate, and his experience as an active real estate investor is going to couple with this conversation tonight. So in his travels, he's gone across the country. He's taught over 70,000 investors, over 300 workshops and classes, spreading the message of tax-free wealth building and leaving a lasting legacy by investing what you know best. So we're going to hopefully educate you guys, empower you to maybe explore some new strategies for investing in real estate. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I'm going to give John control of the keyboard here so that he can put up some PowerPoint slides. But before you do that, John, just tell us a little bit about you, kind of expand on what I shared. Why do people want to listen to you? You're muted right now.
Appreciate that, Craig. Thanks so much for the opportunity here. It's a real honor and a privilege to be able to educate the investors within your particular community. And the way I see it, and to answer your question, I find that I have the ability to be able to help real estate investors and entrepreneurs, which I am a real estate investor and entrepreneur myself, be able to diversify, tapping into our retirement savings accounts, investing in an asset class such as real estate, which we know and understand and have a lot more trust with. And in addition to that, we have the ability to, of course, be able to do it in a more tax efficient manner And that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about. What I've been doing for the last nearly 20 years is teaching and educating real estate investors across the country, again, how they can tap into their retirement savings, be able to invest not just in traditional stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, but be able to focus on investing in real estate, and of course, do it in a more tax efficient manner.
Awesome. How did you get into the space real quickly?
Yeah, so my background has always been around real estate. And
Okay.
about 20 years ago, when I came into Equity Trust, I met the Desich family. And the Desich family, going back to the father, Dick Desich, he's widely known as the pioneer of the self-directed IRA industry. And he started the predecessor to Equity Trust back in 1974. In the early 80s, he put together one of the very first real estate transactions with IRA investors and grew the business to now over 500 associates and over 70 billion in assets under custody and administration. So a lot of it was through the mentorship of him. My wife and I are real estate investors, single family homes, private money lending. We do a lot of lending on house flips, self-storage. So we've had the opportunity throughout the years, even prior to Equity Trust, to participate as investors and also work in small businesses.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you guys are going to definitely want to listen to this. So I did give you free reign of the keyboard and the mouse, so you can certainly present your PowerPoint. Let's hope we get that up there. There's good stuff on it, I promise.
Excellent. Yes. So I'll click around here and I'll get started. Craig, anything else before I jump right into the slides and the content?
Yeah, one question. Something I'm curious about. Like, what do you find the most rewarding about educating and helping others in this area? Like you're doing it for a reason, obviously, right?
Yeah. So from my perspective, what I find most rewarding is the ability to work with an individual investor, myself, along with my team of associates that support me here at Equity Trust, and be able to help them tap into their retirement savings accounts that they, for many, many years, were told that they're not allowed to invest in real estate. And so being able to unlock capital that they didn't think they otherwise could unlock, and the ability to, what I call, leverage compounding interest in the absence of taxation. So that's something that I'll talk about. I have some slides that I'll share and some real examples of investors that are unlocking this. They're utilizing their retirement savings and investing in these unique asset classes, such as real estate and various strategies within real estate. And they're able to compound their wealth in a tax deferred, or as we'll talk about for much of the presentation, in a tax-free Roth environment. So we'll talk a lot about Roth IRAs, Roth solo 401ks, and even a little bit about HSAs. Craig, if you wouldn't mind, there's actually 2 John Bowenses listed in here because I'm running off of 2.
Yeah, it's such a good point. Yeah, you know what? Let me make the other one the organizer. Make this one the presenter. There we go. Yeah, got it.
Excellent, appreciate it. I have a doppelganger on today's program. Okay, excellent. And of course,
had 2 faces shown up, I'd have been nervous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And of course, Craig, as I go through this, if you have questions, you want to interject, you're welcome to do that. You're certainly not going to throw me off, so feel free to ask away. Alrighty. With that being said, I'm going to dive right in here, folks. Thank you so much again for joining me on today's program. I'm going to run this very much like a class. I'm going to go pretty quick. My goal is to not give you a lengthy introduction about myself or my firm. This is not a sales presentation. No sales pitch here whatsoever. I'm here to educate, teach, and hopefully inspire you to be able to utilize these tax-favored self-directed accounts based on your own individual situation and circumstance. So let's go ahead and dive in as a starter here. Most Americans, most individuals, and I'll say 99.5% of America is over here on the left-hand side of the screen. So this is they control your financial accounts. So financial advisors, financial planners, traditional financial institutions, they're generally only going to be able to assist you and accommodate you with investing in traditional financial instruments. So mutual funds, stocks, ETFs, a traditional investment portfolio. We sometimes like to say in the industry, Wall Street design products and services. So this is where most Americans are at. And what we're doing is we're helping you move over to the you control realm. So this is self-directed. You're going to hear this term self-directed. Self-directed is merely an industry term. It just indicates to you that you have the ability to direct your money, invest in real estate, private equity, cryptocurrency. Sometimes we use the term alternative investments, but you have the ability to leverage your knowledge and expertise in real estate, whether that's single family homes, wholesaling, flipping, options, buying and selling on lease option to purchase, buying and selling on owner financing. Maybe you don't necessarily want to own real estate, but you want to be a more passive investor in a private money lender. Maybe it's not single family homes, but self-storage or apartment buildings. So you're going to learn that you have the ability to take control and self-direct your retirement savings accounts, and you don't have to be reliant on a financial planner or financial advisor that may not always have your best interests at heart. That doesn't mean that they're not trying to do the best for you, but you have to understand that traditional financial institutions, they can only offer you so many products or services. So they may not be able to permit you to invest in real estate or private equity or cryptocurrency. Interestingly, you'll find that the tax code is exclusive, not inclusive. So when you look and go back to 1974, when the Employee Retirement Income Securities Act was passed, you'll find that with IRAs and retirement accounts, you have the ability to invest in real estate. In fact, if you go to the IRS website, irs.gov, you'll actually see in black and white that real estate is a permissible investment. But due to the administrative burden, many financial institutions just don't allow you to invest in those types of assets. But with a self-directed IRA, with the right type of financial institution, you have the ability to self-direct and you have the ability to take control of your retirement savings accounts.
I love that. One thing real quick, let me include the group. I want to know who has a self-directed and who has a standard account. I'd love to know. Give us a heads up here. You have a they control or you control? And then we'll wait for the answers, and I'll mention it when they show up. But I just want to see who already has an account that they're working with, and this would be something that they could start jumping into. So self-directed. So Sam's got a self-directed IRA. Awesome. Love that. Maybe there's not a whole bunch of them. That's why they're here tonight. So that's great. Let's go ahead and move on. So perfect.
Excellent. Yeah, appreciate that, Craig. All right. So what I'm taking you through is what I call the 4 tax favored accounts. So these are highly tax efficient accounts that you can utilize, you can establish, you can fund. You might have existing retirement plans to move into these accounts, or maybe you're just setting up these accounts for the very first time and making contributions. So let me give you a quick preview of these accounts, and then we're going to dive deep into these accounts, show lots of investments, case studies, examples, and then there will be a main event towards the end, which is a special type of tax favored account that I want to make sure everybody understands, especially as a real estate investor. So first you have the traditional IRA, sometimes also referred to as a rollover IRA. So this is what we call a pre-tax account. When monies were put into the account, you were getting tax deductions, you have tax deferred growth, and you have taxable distributions upon distributing money in your retirement years. So that's the basic definitions of a traditional IRA or rollover IRA. We then have what we call the Roth IRA, which we spend a lot of time on here, which is the opposite of a traditional IRA. And this is one of the most tax efficient savings accounts that you can utilize as a real estate investor and entrepreneur. In fact, today, July 22nd, is William Roth Jr.'s birthday. So here in our office in Cleveland, Ohio, we were celebrating and memorializing Senator William Roth, who is a legislative sponsor that put into effect the Roth IRA, and that started in 1998. And then fast forward to the early 2000s, we then had the adoption of what we call the Roth Solo 401k, and I'll talk about that as well in a little bit here. When we talk about Roth IRAs, some people are led to believe that they're not allowed to contribute to a Roth IRA because they make too much money. But what you're going to find is that you do have the ability to contribute to a Roth IRA. You just might have to go about it a little bit different way. And this is what we call a backdoor Roth IRA contribution. I'm going to teach you how you can still have a Roth IRA, even if you're a high income earner, whether it's in real estate or from your W-2 or a combination of both. Nice. We then have the HSA health savings account. So if you have an existing HSA, you may not be aware, but you'll know now that you can self-direct the HSA. I'll show you an example in a little bit here of where I use my HSA to make loans secured by real estate. HSAs are really powerful because I can make contributions and get a tax deduction. I have tax-free growth, and then I have tax-free distributions. So as long as I use those distributions for medical related expenses. And I'm going to teach you about a little known technique in a little bit here called medical bill stacking, and that is the capability of distributing from your HSA after you've had the opportunity of compounding interest in the absence of taxation to pay off medical bills in previous years. Again, that's called medical bill stacking. And then we have the solo 401k plan, which again is the main event. Why? Because for real estate agents, self-employed real estate entrepreneurs, it is one of the most superior tax savings plans that is afforded to us by the federal government. And that's because we have the ability to make substantially higher contributions, potentially up to $70,000 when we're under the age of 50, up to $77,500 when we're 50 and over. And then you're going to learn, for those that are interested in investing in debt finance real estate acquisitions, whether it's single family rental properties or occasional fix and flip transactions or investing in multifamily real estate syndications, the solo 401k from a tax treatment perspective can be a highly effective tool.
Nice.
And
Jason had said something about this is going away this year. Jason, if you don't mind, what are you saying is going away this year? Or do you know what he's referring to?
I'm not familiar with what he's referring to. There was the one big beautiful bill, and I think there were some YouTubers out there that were blatantly wrong in the information they were providing around Roth accounts. I actually saw that come up on multiple occasions. I read the bill.
Roth? Was it the backdoor Roth? That's what he says. It was the backdoor Roth.
Yep, that's wrong. I read the bill over the July 4th weekend. I also work with some of the top tax attorneys in the country just to validate that that in fact is not true. So I'm not sure where those YouTubers or Instagrammers got that information from. I will say, as a point of caution, you have to be very careful with the YouTubers and the creators out there. They are not, in many cases, tax professionals. They don't work in this space. They get views and clicks and make money off of advertisements, and I'm not disparaging those individuals, but they don't work in the practice like we do, like tax attorneys do, like CPAs do. So really important to get that information from good sources. But thank you for bringing up the question. And certainly, Craig, if there's anyone else out there that has those items, feel free to jump in and ask away. Okay, so the way the journey works is you have stage one, traditional and Roth IRA. I'll dig a little bit deeper into that. And then stage two is solo 401k and HSA. Now, for some of you, you might have existing IRAs, 401ks, 457s, 403bs, SEP IRAs, other retirement accounts. And what you're going to learn is that you can roll over or transfer those funds into a self-directed IRA or in a self-directed solo 401k. What's really important to understand is that when you transfer money from an existing IRA into a self-directed IRA or solo 401k plan, there are no taxes or penalties. You're doing a direct transfer or rollover from your current financial institution into the self-directed IRA. Again, no taxes or penalties. And when you access the funds to acquire real estate or make a private money loan or invest in a real estate syndication, there as well, you're not distributing from the account prematurely, therefore taxes and penalties incurring. You're actually making an investment. So it's really important to understand everything we're talking about here is not triggering a taxable event or any penalties. You're rolling over or transferring your funds into a self-directed IRA, and then you're deploying that capital for real estate investments that you select. If you don't have any existing retirement accounts, maybe you just have cash and brokerage accounts, we'll talk about how much can you contribute to these various self-directed accounts on an annual basis so that you can get started even if you feel like you're a little bit behind. We're going to talk about how you could potentially play catch up by funding these accounts with maximum contributions and then deploying that capital into real estate investments that you select. And now all of your returns continue to grow tax-free or tax deferred. So just to conclude on this slide, really important for everyone to understand that when you have existing accounts, you're going to do a rollover or a direct transfer into the self-directed IRA. and know that you don't have to roll over or transfer all of your money. Maybe you just move some of your money to get started, and then you could
Right.
always move more money over at a later date. I always let people know there's always an open door through a custodian like Equity Trust. So if you roll over or transfer your money and you decide that you no longer want to self-direct into real estate, you could always move it back to where it came from. You're never put in a situation where you close the jail cell, throw away the key, and never get access to your money. Again, we're all here talking about how you control your money instead of
Right.
everybody else controls your money.
Yep. Somebody asked, Latasha said, are Coverdell accounts self-directed account plans?
Yeah, Coverdell education savings accounts can be self-directed, yes, into real estate. There's pros and cons with those. The pro is it grows tax-free. You can invest in real estate and accumulate wealth tax-free and then pull the money out to pay for the child's education tax-free. The negative to a CISA account is that you can only put $2,000 in per year per child. Now, if you have the opportunity to be able to do smaller dollar deals, like maybe a wholesale deal or two,
Sure.
maybe an option, maybe partner the account with other accounts, maybe take on debt and borrow money from private lenders and do a couple house flips. I've had clients that do that and they really grow their CISA account in a meaningful way. But for a lot of investors, putting $2,000 in a year as a maximum contribution, unfortunately, just doesn't get them very far.
Right. Not enough. Got it.
Yep. And then quickly, I don't like to talk about Equity Trust and myself at the very beginning of a call. I do appreciate you, Craig, asking me some questions about who we are and myself. But just quickly, for those of you that are just getting familiar with Equity Trust, we've been in this space for over 50 years now. I mentioned our company founder, Dick Desich, started the predecessor to Equity Trust back in 1974. We have over 70 billion in assets under custody and administration. And then myself, I've had the opportunity to educate over 100,000 investors over the last nearly 20 years. I love real estate. I'm really passionate about it. And I love working with real estate entrepreneurs and investors like you, Craig, and everybody else that's on today's call. So diving in here to traditional and Roth IRA, for those of you that aren't familiar with the difference between these two types of accounts, we always like to use the analogy, you either pay taxes on the seed or you pay taxes on the crop. So with a traditional IRA, just think when you put money into the traditional account, you're getting a tax deduction for it. It's growing tax deferred. And then when you take the money out after the qualified retirement age of 59 and a half, whatever amount you distribute is added to your ordinary income, and then you're going to pay taxes accordingly.
Yeah.
So again, because you didn't pay taxes on the seed, yes, you get the benefit of tax deferred growth, but then when you take the money out, you have to add that to your 1040 tax return and pay taxes accordingly. So for example, let's say you grow a traditional IRA to $1 million and you take a $100,000 distribution at the age of 60. And let's just use the 24% tax bracket. So let's say you're at the 24% tax bracket, you're going to pay $24,000 in taxes on that $100,000 distribution. Now remember, along the way, the benefit is tax deferred growth. So you're not paying taxes in each of those incremental years. It's not until you start pulling the money out after the retirement age of 59 and a half that you're going to pay taxes. In contrast to that, you have the Roth IRA. So the Roth IRA is seeded with after-tax money, so no deduction on the funds going in. It grows tax-free, and then all of your withdrawals are 100% tax-free. And I am going to teach you in a few slides here about how you could even potentially access your Roth IRA money prior to 59 and a half and pay 0% taxes and no penalties. And that's something I like to call the Roth IRA layered cake. Now, before we get there, you have to understand what we call the Roth conversion. And I'm going to show you what I refer to as the Roth equation. I'm going to give you the three variables that you're going to plug in, and you're going to look at, can it make sense for me to convert from traditional to Roth? Now, I can't advise and say whether you should or shouldn't convert, but I can give you the financial equation that you should think about and utilize to start making a determination through your own lens, should you convert or not convert from traditional to Roth. A lot of people start with traditional accounts because they had 401ks from old employers that were all pre-tax, maybe a TSP, maybe a 403B, maybe a 457, or maybe they have rollover IRAs and traditional IRAs. And now they learn about Roth and they want to figure out how to strategically convert from traditional to Roth. which is what I intend on showing you in this class. So let's move on to understanding mathematically or numerically the difference between traditional and Roth. And even to back up further than that, what does time value money compounding interest look like when you have taxes versus when you're in a tax deferred environment compared to a totally tax-free Roth environment? So using our example here, if we put $6,000 away over the next 25 years, and if we apply a tax rate of, you'll see there, 30%, and then when we distribute a tax rate of 20%, and we're going to punch into our financial calculator here, Craig, a 12% annual return. So that's compounding once per year. In a taxable environment, we have about $601,000 saved. In a traditional IRA environment, tax deferred environment, we get a deduction going in, we get tax deferred growth, and then we pay taxes when we withdraw during our retirement years. In a traditional IRA, you see there close to $900,000 in savings. So we save nearly $300,000 in taxes. Now, I know some folks out there might look at this and say, well, what if I'm investing in real estate, not with an IRA, and I have depreciation, and I could take advantage of bonus depreciation, especially with the one big beautiful bill that just passed, right? Cost segregations, I can do 1031 exchanges. Those are, of course, all strategies, yes, that can be effective. But the reality is we can never completely eliminate taxation.
Right.
Yes, we could 1031 until we die and take advantage of step-up in basis. But outside of that, if we want to enjoy the fruits of our own labor, what do we need to do? Well, we're going to have a capital gain event. We're going to have recapture depreciation. We're going to have long-term capital gains, and we have to understand that. Interestingly, with a Roth IRA, and why we're so passionate about the Roth IRA, is this. We put money in after tax, whether that's through conversions or making contributions directly to the Roth. It grows tax-free, and then when we distribute money from the Roth IRA, we pay 0% tax. And so it's a situation where we enter into, I call it a contract with the IRS. It's not actual contract, right? But we enter into a contract with the IRS, and we say to the IRS, we say to the government, hey, here's the deal. I'm going to pay the taxes now on this money going into this account, whether that's converting from a traditional to a Roth or just making our contribution. So I'm not going to get a deduction now. I'm entering into that contract with the government, with the IRS, that I'm paying the taxes now. And the IRS will never get another dime of tax revenue from that account ever again in my life. They also will never get another dime of tax from that account from my heirs. So when I leave my Roth IRA to my children or my grandchildren, 0% tax, compounding interest in the absence of taxation. Here's the way I look at it, Craig, and I'm sure a lot of people on this call look at it.
By the way, love that.
I'm a real estate investor and entrepreneur. I put up all the money. I take on all the risk, right? I'm doing everything. And guess what? At the end of the road, the IRS is there to take their share. But with a Roth IRA, guess what? The IRS isn't there taking its share. I get to put up all the money, put in all the time, take on all the risk, and I get to take every single dollar out of that Roth IRA. That's the real spirit of what we're talking about here. This is why I'm so passionate about what I'm talking about, and the numbers speak volumes here. You see the Roth IRA, we have 1.117 million saved in the Roth IRA. Now, let me show some case studies or real examples, because I'm showing you the numerical representation of it. Graphs look really nice. But hey, let's look at this in the real world. How is this actually working? This is Kevin and Cynthia. They're two clients of mine that I started working with in 2011 and 2012. In their words, not mine, they're stock market refugees, or were stock market refugees. They went through the great financial crisis. Anyone that went through the great financial crisis, whether you're in financial services or not like myself, real estate or not like myself, it doesn't matter. You felt the impacts.
That's right.
Still, arguably, we're still feeling the impacts of that. Even though we've had some great things that have happened since then, we're all still feeling the impacts of that. And Kevin and Cynthia are no different. And so in 2011 and 2012, they made the decision to roll over their 401ks into traditional IRAs and then subsequently convert those funds to Roth IRAs. So they did what we call the Roth conversion. They started with about 117,000 and they converted their funds, and then through over 40 real estate transactions, they've been able to grow their Roth IRAs to over $2 million in property value, and they're generating over $200,000 in cash flow on an annual basis. So here's how it worked for Kevin and Cynthia. In March of 2011, Kevin had about 50,000, call it 51,000, that he rolled over from his 401k and then converted to a Roth IRA. So he had to pay the taxes converting that 50,000, 51,000. Year two, his wife Cynthia, she rolled over her 401k and then converted it to a Roth IRA.
All of it at one time, not a disparate. It was 150,000 minus whatever the taxes that he ends up paying on it. Is that how that works? Or is that the end of the year?
Yeah, so interestingly, they split it up. We call this converting in stages. So Kevin converted his funds in 2011, Cynthia converted hers in 2012. So that way they spread out the tax burden over 2 years. We call that converting in stages. Now, interestingly, you don't have to withhold from the account when you convert from traditional to Roth. You can pay for the taxes outside of the IRA. Most people do that. So that way they don't have additional penalties when they're under 59 and a half. And they don't cannibalize the Roth dollars.
Right.
So once they got everything converted over, they started buying real estate. Now, this is just two of many transactions that they've done in their Roth IRAs. They are real estate investors that they utilize what they call a path to home ownership strategy. So they buy houses from motivated sellers. They add value through renovations, forcing a lot of appreciation. They sell the properties on either owner financing, lease option to purchase, or rent to own. So again, they call this creative finance structures, and they've been doing this for a lot of years. They're very successful with it. These two particular transactions, they had 16 to 20% cash on cash annual returns, all tax-free in their Roths. They own the houses free and clear in their Roths. So 0% tax on all of the rental income, 0% tax on all of the appreciation from the sale on owner financing and lease option to purchase. Eventually, the tenant buyers qualified for traditional financing in about 2 to 3 years, and then they exited from the deal at that point. So the tenant buyers were able to, with the refinance, pay off the owner finance note. They walked away with cash in their Roth IRAs tax-free. The beauty of this, of course, is that they don't have to report any of the income, any of the appreciation, any of the capital gains, any of the rental income. They don't have to report any of it on their personal tax return. Why? Because it's in their Roth IRA, and their Roth IRA is a tax-free entity. That's really important to understand. So their Roth IRAs bought the properties, their Roth IRAs paid for the repairs, their Roth IRAs received all of the profits tax-free. That's the ebb and flow of what we're talking about here. So Roth IRA 1, still to this day, this is Kevin's Roth IRA. He has 7 cash flowing properties in his Roth IRA. The monthly cash flow is about $7,400, called $7,500. That's after all expenses. And then Cynthia's Roth IRA is generating about $6,000 in monthly net tax-free cash flow. So combined between the two accounts, you're looking at about $13,000 in monthly tax-free cash flow. So think about that. That's an extra $13,000 that Kevin and Cynthia can draw on a monthly basis and pay 0% tax. It's not added to their 1040. They don't have the 3.8% net investment income tax that they have to worry about. They're not worried about it impacting their overall tax basis or tax situation because it's all tax-free coming from their Roth IRA. Now, fast forward here, this is their consolidated statement. So on an annual basis, between their 7 cash flowing properties in each one of their Roths for a total of 14, they're generating about $162,000, called $162,500. That's again, all tax-free. And then when they build up cash in their Roths, they're at a point now where they're focusing more on private money lending. So they have a network of investors now that they work with that need financing for their BRRRR deals, for their lease option to purchase deals, for their creative finance deals. And so they're lending money and charging between 8 to 12% on these short-term private money loan deals, and they're generating an extra about $52,000 in interest income. Interestingly, interest income is subject to ordinary income tax rates, but in a Roth IRA, it's 100% tax-free. And if you don't believe me, just go to Internal Revenue Code section 512. 512 of the Internal Revenue Code is very clear that interest income is exempt from taxes in your IRA. And so that's one of my most favorite parts of the United States tax code, section 512, amongst many others, 408A and 408 of the tax code, for anyone out there interested in light reading. So as you see there, you have over 214,000 in tax-free cash flow coming into their Roth IRAs on an annual basis.
And
now,
is that adding on top of their balance? Is that what you're saying? Is they're adding more every year?
So that's 214,000 in cash flow. That doesn't take into account the appreciation of the property. So as those properties appreciate, that adds to their value, and then they have 214,000 in cash flow coming in. And then to conclude Kevin and Cynthia's example here, Craig, when I interviewed Kevin and Cynthia, and I stay in touch with them on almost a weekly basis now, their goal is to not use all of their Roth IRA money in their retirement. And in fact, there's a good chance that they won't touch any money in their Roths. They want those Roth IRAs and the cash in those Roth IRAs to go to their children. If their children have children, go to their grandchildren, because the properties and all the cash in those Roth IRAs can be left to the children or grandchildren. They inherit the Roth IRA as an inherited Roth IRA.
Right.
They can continue to maintain it for 10 years under the new rules starting in 2020. They can continue to maintain that for 10 years, but it continues to grow tax-free. And then at that point, they just distribute all the properties in cash, but they pay 0% tax. And so that's why I mentioned before how powerful a Roth IRA is, not just for retirement savings, but also for legacy and estate planning purposes.
Two quick questions. Could you take that? You said after 10 years, could they take the disbursement and then just open another Roth IRA if they wanted to, or could they have, like, you inherited a Roth IRA? Can't speak. They inherited the Roth IRA. You said they can hang on to it for 10 years, right?
Yep.
And what? Correct. Do they take the money? You said they disperse what do they have to do with the stuff that's inside of it?
Yeah, they have to distribute the cash and the assets, and then it becomes cash and assets to them personally. They wouldn't be able to roll that over into their own IRA. It would essentially move out of the tax-free world and into the taxable world, which is okay, because if you think about it, if they leave properties, they'll get an appraisal on all those properties. They'll distribute tax-free, and then they'll establish that as their basis. And then what will they do? They'll depreciate those properties, maybe 1031 into larger properties. Maybe their goal is to just keep those properties and then leave them to their children and take advantage of step-up in basis. Hopefully step-up in basis will still be around by then, but obviously there's other tax strategies that they can utilize at that point.
Cool. Two questions. So can I convert from a traditional IRA to Roth IRA at 60 years of age?
Absolutely. There's no age limitations. You can convert whenever.
And then if someone's asking, what's the difference between Roth IRA and a trust account? And why would I want a Roth IRA and not a trust account?
So a trust for estate planning purposes would be much different than an IRA. Interestingly, an IRA is a trust.
Yeah.
So it is a trust. Yeah, it avoids probate. So it functions in similar ways as a traditional trust in the sense of a traditional trust. But ultimately, the benefit of the IRA is the tax-exempt nature of the IRA.
Yeah, awesome. And then there was one more. David said no depreciation tax deduction on the investment property, right?
That's correct. I'm really glad David brought that up. So let's talk about depreciation for a moment. When you have rental properties in your IRA, traditional or Roth, but moreover, we'll say Roth IRA, because there are so many benefits, as you're starting to see here, with the Roth IRA, even if you have to convert from traditional to Roth. So when you own a property in your Roth IRA, there's no taxable income. There's no taxable income on the rents. There's no taxable income on the sale. So depreciation does what? Depreciation offsets taxable income. If you don't have any taxable income, there's nothing to offset. Therefore, depreciation is not relevant or necessary. I bring this up because I found a lot of folks are led to think that they lose depreciation. I've even seen some TikTokers and Instagrammers out there that say, don't buy real estate in your IRA because you lose depreciation. Well, again, in the IRA, you don't have taxable income, therefore there's no income to offset. So it's irrelevant. So really important to understand that. I think fundamentally there is an argument that it makes more sense to own rental properties in a Roth IRA in comparison to a traditional IRA. Because with the traditional IRA, yes, eventually when you distribute from the traditional IRA, you're going to pay taxes.
Right. Right. Got it. Real quick, I was curious, can you go straight from a 401k to a Roth IRA, or does it have to go to a traditional first and then to a Roth IRA?
In theory, you can go right from 401k to Roth IRA, but that's not the best practice from a record keeping perspective and tax reporting perspective. You would be better off rolling over the 401k, which let's assume it's all pre-tax, roll it over to a traditional IRA, and then you do a conversion to the Roth.
Got it. Perfect. Great.
Which is great segue to this slide, which is what is a Roth conversion? That's simply put, converting from a pre-tax to a post-tax Roth. Some bullets or points to make sure we mention here that are really important. Number one, you see there, you can convert a portion or your entire traditional IRA. So we like to call this converting in stages. So you can also convert multiple times throughout the year. Here's a great example. I have clients that are converting money now, and towards the end of the year, they'll look at their tax situation and where their tax bracket is, and then they'll make a decision to possibly convert a little bit more money over. And I'll share an example of that in just a second here. The next one you see here is you don't have to withhold for taxes. That was a great question, Craig. Don't have to withhold for taxes. You don't have to cannibalize the dollars. You would pay the taxes with non-IRA resources. And then you also see here about withholding for taxes. If you did withhold for taxes and you were under the age of 59 and a half, you would have ordinary income taxes and you'd be subject to a 10% premature withdrawal penalty. Because if you distribute money from your IRA prior to 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty unless you meet one of the exceptions, which I will talk about the exceptions in just a few moments here. But as a general rule, you have that penalty, and that's why a lot of people, when they convert, they don't withhold from the account. In my example here, I have 100,000 in a traditional IRA and I converted to a Roth IRA. So 100,000 is added to my ordinary income for that particular tax year. And then I pay taxes based on my ordinary income tax rate. So let's say I'm at the 24% tax bracket, 24% on 100,000 is $24,000. Now, some people say, well, why in the world would you pay that amount of money in taxes in 1 year? Well, how much can you grow the account to? And we use our Roth equation, which I'll show you now, which is our three variables that you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen. So the question, to convert or not to convert. Remember that converting from a traditional to a Roth, the Roth IRA, it's an exponential equation. It's an exponential equation. And you look at these three variables when determining to convert or not to convert. And the real basic theory is, will you pay more in taxes now or later? That's the question that you have to answer. And it's a mathematical question. And it's not overly difficult. You don't have to have a PhD in mathematics to figure this stuff out.
Nobody said there was going to be math today.
Exactly. Yeah. There's calculators out there. There's all sorts of resources. You can easily figure this out. So variable number one is annual return on investment. So the higher your return on investment, the more vertical this exponential equation is going to be. And then number of years. The more years you're investing in growing and taking advantage of the Roth IRA, the more magnifying effects you'll have, right? This exponential equation gets elongated and hopefully your return on investment stays constant or increases, and then you continue to go vertical. And then the last one is your tax rate now versus the future. The general rule is if you think your tax rate is going to be higher in the future, it might make sense to convert now. Here's the problem with that theory. And I've seen it in many cases where individuals have a lower tax rate in the future, but it still makes sense for them to convert. Why is that? Because their return on investment is substantial enough and the number of years before they're going to harvest is long enough where it still makes sense. That really bothers me, Craig, because I've had people that try to use those general rules of thumb and it's not accurate. You have to look at it as an equation, multivariable equation, and here are the three variables that you use. All right, the one
Hold
big.
on, got a couple quick questions. Does the Roth have to pay cash for the property, or could it get a loan? Do you borrow from the? How do you handle that when you're buying the property? Or do you have a slide for that? Will you be getting to that, or?
Yeah, so the IRA can either borrow to acquire real estate. When the IRA borrows or the solo 401k or the HSA borrows, when it's borrowing, the loan has to be a non-recourse loan, which means in the event of a default, the only recourse that the lender has is against the subject property. We do have an affiliate company called IRA Power Loans that understands IRAs and 401ks and can make loans. And there are other non-recourse lenders out there as well. Some banks, some more like hard money lender type entities, but there are lenders out there that will loan to IRAs on a non-recourse basis. The reason why you can't sign a personal guarantee is because under 4975C1B of the tax code, it's considered a prohibited transaction. So an IRA could borrow money to acquire real estate. We see it happen all the time. Or the IRA could buy the property free and clear.
Awesome. Latasha says, I'm currently building up my self-directed, and while I don't have enough to purchase an entire property, I do have enough for a huge down payment. How does that work for tax purposes?
Yeah, so when an IRA buys real estate with debt, that is one of the few circumstances where the IRA would be subject to tax. It's a special tax called unrelated business income tax. However, with a solo 401k plan, you can be exempt from unrelated business income tax. I'll pause on that one because I'll come back to it in just a few slides quickly here.
Cool. And then do some people take a sabbatical year so that they don't have any taxable income and do their Roth conversion during that year? Is that a viable strategy?
I would say that it could be. However, I always like to say, don't let the tax tail wag the economic dog.
Yeah.
Don't purposely not show any income just to do a conversion because your net effects may not be as good.
Yeah. Perfect. Great questions, by the way. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, likewise. Keep them coming. All right. So the one big beautiful bill, this is really important. You know, Congress, the way I look at it is Congress just gave us as real estate investors the deal of the century. And you have to make the decision. I can't make the decision for you. You have to make the decision. Do you want to take it or not? If you have a lot of money in pre-tax accounts, you might want to consider this. See, prior to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, on the left-hand side of the screen were our tax brackets. These tax brackets are far less favorable than the tax brackets we have now. Mm-hmm. What the one big beautiful bill did is it extended these tax brackets and made them permanent. A lot of people don't know this. So these brackets were going to sunset in 2025, which means we were going to go back to these pre-2018, which are not as favorable for converting from traditional to Roth. Also, we have the standard deductions that went into permanency. So this is massive for real estate entrepreneurs, investors. So how does this work? Well, let's use the example of someone that's a $200,000 wage earner. So someone making $200,000 and they convert $100,000. So we take 200,000, we add the $100,000 conversion is 300,000. So prior to 2018, which after 2025, we're going to go back to these tax brackets if it wasn't for the one big beautiful bill. So we look at the pre-2018, pre-TCJA, and 300,000 in that bracket, we would have been at the 33% tax bracket. So if we converted 100,000 from traditional to Roth, we would pay about $33,000 in taxes. Now let's look at the deal that Congress has just given us with the one big beautiful bill. So we take 300,000 for a married filing joint couple using our example, and we're now in the what? 24% tax bracket.
That's huge.
So instead of paying $9,000 difference in taxes paid. And also think about the bracket strategy here. So we take our $300,000 person, they get close to the end of the year. How much more do they have that still allows them to stay in the 24% tax bracket? About $94,000. So that's someone that towards the end of the year might say, well, you know what? It might make sense to convert a little bit more money over because I'm not going to bump up or creep up into that next tax bracket. So Roth conversions from traditional to Roth, really important to be thinking about right now. Give you a couple examples of this. So this is Alan from Texas, and Alan is a real estate investor that had a 403B. He was a college professor. So when you hear 403B, think it's like a 401k for people that work for a nonprofit.
Got it.
And so Alan had a 403B that he rolled over into what type of account? A traditional IRA, pre-tax account. All of his money was pre-tax. He didn't convert in year one to his Roth IRA. he didn't know much about a Roth IRA, which is the reason why he didn't do it. So in year one, he bought a foreclosure in Texas for $71,000. His traditional IRA bought the property per his direction. He worked with Equity Trust as custodian. A wire transfer went from Equity Trust to the title company for the $71,000. He put $20,000 worth of work into the property. So this was a value add transaction.
Yep.
The IRA paid for all the repair costs. So when your IRA buys the property, the IRA is responsible for all the repair costs. So that was a total of $91,000. The monthly rent is $1,350, 12% cash on cash return, about $11,200 in annual cash flow. And you see the appraised value of $123. I'll need to update the slide because it's most likely significantly higher than that.
Much higher now, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's owned free and clear in his IRA. There's no debt against the property, so it's all tax deferred. Now, let's fast forward. Deal number two. Alan is deploying a strategy that we call convert in stages, converting over multiple years to spread out his tax burden. The second tip on Roth conversions is convert deal specific. So each year he converted a little bit more money over based on the deal he was doing, paid the taxes on that amount, bought the property, and now he's in a position where he owns 3 rental properties in his Roth and 1 still left in his traditional. So this was year number 2, deal number 2. He converted about $75,000 to $80,000 before he did this deal. He bought the property for $54,000 in his Roth IRA, put $10,000 worth of work into the property. He was in it for $64,000, renting it for $1,500 a month for an annual cash on cash return of 15 to 18%. Cash flow is about $12,000. Again, just like Kevin and Cynthia, all tax free. So then year number 3, he converted a little bit more money over, bought another property. Year number 4, converted a little bit more money over, bought another property. So now he's got 3 cash flowing rentals in his Roth, 33.6 in annual cash flow, all tax free, and he still has 1 left in his traditional IRA. Now, interestingly, he could actually convert that property into his Roth IRA. He could do an in-kind conversion from traditional to Roth. People do that all the time. You just have to get an appraisal or a broker price opinion to assess the value and then convert from traditional to Roth.
Love it. Couple more quick questions. Can the Roth invest in a syndication as a limited partner? Is that a good strategy? David was curious. Get involved in syndication.
So in terms of does investing in a real estate syndication make sense? I couldn't say absolutely yes to that question because I can't give investment advice.
Fair.
What I will tell you is, can you, if you feel strongly about the investment opportunity and economics of a real estate syndication, can you use your IRA or 401k or HSA to invest in that type of opportunity? 100%. We see it every day here at Equity Trust.
Beautiful.
We work with hundreds of thousands of real estate syndicators and sponsors across the country that refer us clients for them to use their IRAs and solo 401ks to invest in their real estate partnerships. So short answer is absolutely, if the investment makes sense for you. So
another quick question. One more quick question. They're keep coming, so I want to make sure I get them. Someone said they're set up to acquire with your LLC. How would I transfer the ownership to a Roth IRA? So how does an LLC and a Roth IRA, how would they work together if you're doing all of your transactions that way?
Sure. So if it's an existing LLC in your name or other business that you have, you wouldn't be able to transition that into your IRA, Roth IRA, HSA, 401k. And that's because of the prohibited transaction rules. 4975 of the Internal Revenue Code describes who are disqualified persons to your IRA, which would be yourself, your parents, your children, your grandchildren, your grandparents, people up and down the family tree, and then businesses that you own and control. You wouldn't be able to take any assets that you own now and put them into your IRA. Now, let's say you were buying a new property. So it's always going to be new assets, new investments, new properties. Let's say you're going to buy a new property with your IRA funds. Could you form an LLC, a new LLC? Your IRA is the 100% owner of that LLC. You're the manager of that LLC, and then you have an LLC checking account to make it easier to direct money in and out and also have the asset protection of an LLC. The answer is absolutely 100%. We see it all the time where investors form an LLC specifically for their IRA investments. Their IRA owns that LLC. They're in control of that LLC. They're the manager. And with checkbook control, they direct money in and out of that LLC bank account.
Love it. I think you've already answered this, but I think Diana didn't hear it. So she says, if I use my Roth IRA for real estate, do I have to pay taxes on the capital gains?
If you use What again?
She's saying if she uses the Roth IRA, does she have to pay any capital gains? I want her to hear it come out of your mouth.
Yeah, so the answer is no. No capital gains, providing that you own the property free and clear. Providing that you own the property free and clear. And then quickly on this one, a lot of people ask me to talk about this, the Roth IRA layered cake, which is just an industry term that I came up with to describe how you can access money from your Roth IRA prior to 59.5. This is especially for those out there that are maybe under the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. I know there's a lot of younger folks that are interested. So I'll just talk about this one briefly. So what this is with a Roth IRA, you take distributions from your Roth IRA in layers. You start with contributions, you then move into conversions, amounts you converted from traditional to Roth, and then you move into earnings. Interestingly, amounts that you've contributed and amounts that you've converted that have seasoned for 5 years on the converted amounts, you can take those monies out at any time, even prior to 59.5, and you don't pay any taxes and no penalties. The contributions you make directly to the Roth IRA, you could put money into a Roth IRA, let's say today, $7,000. You could go out and, for example, do a wholesale deal and make $7,000, keep the $7,000 in earnings in there, and distribute the original $7,000 that you contributed and pay 0% tax and penalty, even under the age of 59.5. So just remember, with Roth IRAs, the distribution rules work differently than other accounts. With a Roth IRA, you can take out amounts that you contributed, and you take those out first. Then you start dipping into amounts that you converted from traditional to Roth. As long as the amounts that you converted from traditional to Roth have seasoned for 5 years, even when you're under 59.5, you can take those amounts out tax and penalty free. And Craig, I like to call this the infinite cash flowing model for your Roth. Why? Because if you can seed your Roth with contributions and amounts you've converted, and then you can get some growth in there, you can take out your contributions in amounts you converted and then keep your earnings in there, and all of that money that continues to compound, you have infinite returns. And so that's something for, again, those that are well under 59.5 that are saying, how do I enjoy a Roth IRA even prior to retirement? That's a good way to think about it. HSA, I know we've been talking a lot about retirement accounts, and you're thinking, well, an HSA isn't a retirement account. Well, some people call it the stealth IRA or the stealth retirement account. Here's the reason why. With an HSA, you can make contributions. You have tax deferred, or I should say tax-free growth. And then when you take the money out, you pay 0% tax, providing that you're using it for medical related expenses. Now, interestingly, there's something that we call medical bill stacking. So Craig, here's an example. I have an HSA. I make private money loans secured by real estate. I'll show an example in just a moment. All of the interest income goes back into my HSA. When I have medical expenses that come up, I don't pay for those with my HSA. I don't pull out my HSA debit card and pay for those medical bills. What I do is I save those medical bills, because at some point in the future, I can distribute from my HSA and reimburse myself for previous year's medical related expenses. This is what I call medical bill stacking. I don't have to be 59.5 to do this, which means my wife and I, and this is what we plan on doing, when we're in our late 40s, early 50s, that's when we're going to start tapping into our HSAs that we've been working very, very hard for to grow 100% tax-free. It's all about compounding interest in the absence of taxation. Here's a quick example. In about 30 days, this loan is going to pay off. It's pending right now. I'm working with the title company. This is a private money loan. So I don't own this property. I'm not the one that's flipping the property. I am just simply being the bank. I'm the lender on this deal. So I made a $193,000 loan to a house flipper, 14% per annum interest. My Roth funded 80% of the deal. My traditional funded 16%, and my HSA funded 4%. So interestingly, you can actually partner up multiple money sources. Now, when you're partnering with yourself, your children, your parents, when you're partnering with disqualified persons, you have to make sure you follow the pro rata rules. Meaning whatever amount I put into the deal, I have to make sure that establishes the pro rata percentage, and then all of my principal and interest, or all of my profit, flows at that same percentage. So on this particular deal, my Roth funded 80% of the $193,000 loan. my traditional 16%, and my HSA 4%. Now on the payback, the principal and interest will flow pro rata, 80, 16, and 4%. So you'll see there that the total interest profit is going to be about $27,000. So the title company will send a wire transfer at closing when the property sells, which again, closing, it will be about 30 days from now. They'll send a wire transfer to Equity Trust, and then those funds will be split across my Roth, traditional, and HSA, 80%, 16%, and 4%.
So they go back in the same amount that they were loaned at. Got it. Yep.
Exactly.
Or the amount that they were loaned at. Yeah, I got it.
Exactly. And from a tax savings perspective, that $27,000, if I did this deal not with my tax-free accounts, if I did this deal in the taxable world, I would pay anywhere between $6,500 to $7,000 in taxes. Because interest income is subject to ordinary income tax rates. It's just like interest on a checking or savings account in a bank. And you can't depreciate a loan. You can't write off the loan, right? So unfortunately, you're at the highest tax basis there, but in my self-directed tax-free accounts, I don't have to worry about claiming that as ordinary income. It's all tax-free in my accounts, you can see there. My HSA will generate about $1,000 in tax-free interest. My Roth will generate about $22,000 in tax-free interest. And then I have my traditional in there with some tax-deferred growth. So yeah, eventually I'll pay taxes on that amount unless I decide to convert it to a Roth IRA or maybe do a qualified charitable distribution when I'm 75 years of age. However, we would be here for another 2 hours if I went into that lengthy conversation. So there's the after pictures, the before picture, and then the after picture. So
lovely. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so real nice job that this particular borrower does. We've done many loans together.
Was he a fix and flipper? Is he a wholesaler? Is that a fix and flipper guy?
Yep. Yeah. He does some wholesaling, but very few. He buys properties from wholesalers occasionally, but most of his deals are off-market deals. Interestingly, Craig, he might actually utilize your software. I think he does. Yeah,
Probably.
So he finds off-market deals. He utilizes the software and takes advantage of that. So that's a good example of incorporating the software that you have there. Okay, so this is the main event, and then we could do some Q&A. I know we're running a little bit long, but certainly I'll be happy to stay on as long as necessary to answer questions. So the solo 401k plan, Craig, you were talking about wholesaling. You were talking about the real estate entrepreneurs, investors that you work with. The solo 401k plan, I'm not going to say was created by Congress for real estate investors, but here's what I'll tell you. They gave an incredible gift to real estate investors and entrepreneurs. I don't think that was what the expectations were. Their expectations, I think, were more just for the general entrepreneurs of the world, but they gave a massive, massive gift to us real estate investors and entrepreneurs. And here's the reason why. So with the solo 401k plan, here are the primary benefits of the solo 401k plan. Number one, you have the ability to make larger contributions. So you can increase your investing potential because you can just get more money into these accounts on an annual basis. And you do that across 3 buckets. There's an employee contribution as a self-employed person. There's something called an employer profit sharing contribution, just like a match you would get for a 401k with a company you work for. And then something called a post-tax voluntary contribution. You can make much larger Roth style contributions. So I teach people with the solo 401k plan how they can get up to $70,000 into the Roth portion of the solo 401k plan. When they're 50 and over, up to $77,500. And if you're between 60 to 63, thank you to the Secure Act 2.0 legislation, you could actually get up to $81,250. The next one here, Craig, I'm going to spend a minute on because it's super important. So for anyone that may have started to tune out, because I know we're at about the 75-minute mark here, I want everybody to come back in and tune me in because this would be
a bell or something.
Yeah, bell. This could be the topic that could really make or break someone's 2025 or 2026. With a solo 401k plan, you can invest in debt leverage real estate without triggering unrelated business income tax, also known as unrelated debt finance income tax. It's one of my most favorite parts of the United States tax code, section 514C9A. For anyone out there that's going to go and read up on that later tonight, section 514C9A. It's, again, one of my most favorite parts of the tax code because it has an exemption from UBIT as it relates to debt finance real estate, with a qualified plan, which includes a solo 401k plan. So let me explain further so people can understand this. If you use a traditional IRA, Roth IRA, HSA to invest in debt financed real estate, for example, you buy a property for $200,000. You borrow $100,000 from a non-recourse lender. Maybe that's IRA Power Loans, maybe that's someone else. So you're 50% leveraged. What's going to happen is the IRS is going to impose a tax. It's not a penalty, it's just a tax. They're going to impose a tax on 50% of your net gains. Now, if it's a buy and hold rental, you might have enough depreciation to really wipe a lot of that out or even show a loss that you can carry forward. So it still can make sense to do debt finance deals with an IRA or HSA, but you have to understand that you're at some point going to pay that tax.
Right.
When you sell the property, you're going to have capital gains on that percentage that's debt financed. If you're investing in a real estate syndication, like an apartment building deal where you're an LP in a deal and there's debt on that multifamily property, let's say 70% leverage, you're going to pay taxes on 70% of your net gain. But with the solo 401k plan, section 514C9A, you are exempt from that unrelated business income tax. And I'll show as a conclusion to this program an example in just a moment of that. Moving on, you have the ability to make much larger contributions than what you could just make to a regular 401k with your job. And then the last one is you can self-direct a solo 401k plan with full checkbook control, we call it.
Wow.
So here's how much you can contribute, Craig. So 2025, you can contribute as an employee up to $23,500. When you're 50 and over, $31,000 on a catch-up as an employee. That's just like a company-sponsored 401k where you are W-2 and you can contribute that amount of money. And then you have what's called a profit-sharing contribution, which is up to 20% of your self-employment income or 25% of your W-2 if you're an LLC taxed as an S corporation or just an S corporation or C corporation. The combined contribution limits you see there when you're under 50, $70,000. And when you're 50 and over, $77,500. And then there's this super catch-up contribution if you're 60 to 63. Now, I don't want folks to get lost in all the details. I do a deeper dive on solo 401ks so people can really wrap their head around how these contributions work and whether they may or may not be qualified. Because you do have to be qualified for a solo 401k plan. You can't have W-2 employees unless you meet certain exceptions like a spouse, business partner, people that are under 21, W-2s under 21, people that are very part-time employees. You can exclude them from the plan. But if you have a business or multiple businesses with W-2 employees, a solo 401k plan most likely is not going to work for you. This is just a quick example of someone with an S corporation paying themselves $100,000 where we actually show them how to do these 3 buckets and contribute to all 3 buckets. And between these 3 buckets, they now have $70,000 all in the Roth component of their solo 401k plan. So a solo 401k plan has a traditional side and a Roth side. It's not an IRA in a solo 401k plan. It's a solo 401k plan and you have a traditional side and a Roth side. And what we show people how to do is how to get that 70,000 all in the Roth side if they want to be able to enjoy 100% tax-free growth and 100% tax-free distributions. For those that want a tax deduction, Craig, they could potentially get upwards of a $70,000 tax deduction or $77,500 if they're 50 and over. Just mind you, that's a tax deferred account and you're eventually going to pay taxes. But maybe it makes sense for someone. They want a large tax deduction in maybe 1 or 2 years and then eventually convert it later on down the road when they have a lower tax rate. Maybe they fall into the real estate professional status and they have a lot of passive losses that are offsetting their active income. And so we can get really, really creative here in how we can strategize and utilize these various self-directed accounts. And then last couple slides here, and then any Q&A, happy to do that. This is Linda. Her name is not actually Linda, but for anonymity purposes, I call her Linda. Linda opened a solo 401k plan about 1.5 years ago, and her goal was to invest in a real estate syndication. So this is a multi-family real estate complex. It's operated by a general partner, not by Linda. Linda is just simply a passive limited partner in the deal. She needed $100,000 for the investment. She had a 401k from an old employer that she had rolled over to a traditional IRA. and then she rolled from her traditional IRA into her solo 401k plan, into the traditional side. So that was step one. She invested the $100,000 into the multifamily real estate syndication. She then went to a CPA and got a valuation on her underlying investment. It wasn't on the property, it was actually on her investment. And the CPA was able to argue, because of her lack of liquidity in the deal and because of the lack of control, she doesn't have voting rights, that her $100,000 investment was actually valued for tax purposes at $55,000. She did an in-kind conversion from the traditional side to the Roth side at 55 instead of 100,000. She saved between $12,000 to $13,000 in taxes.
Yeah.
This strategy that I'm showing you here, I don't talk about on all webinars or calls because it's very advanced. It's called a discount conversion strategy. It's more advanced. It requires a good tax planner and CPA to really work you through the process. But in this case, Linda was able to do it. And by the way, Linda doesn't have a lot of experience in real estate. She's newer to real estate and was able to accomplish all of this. So it's a great testimonial of where someone gets started, they dig in, they educate themselves, they save $12,000 to $13,000 in taxes because it's in a solo 401k plan, no unrelated business income tax on any of the net gains.
That's amazing.
And all of the income is flowing into her Roth account 100% tax-free. And then my last slide I'll put up here, Craig, I mentioned at the beginning, there's no sales presentation here. That's not who I am. I'm an educator and I'm a teacher. I'm an investor. I love this business. It's treated myself and my spouse and so many people that I've worked with very, very well. But what I do want to do is make sure that I leave everyone with some education that they can dig deeper into. So I talked about a lot of different topics, from Roth conversions to how to look at the Roth equation, Roth IRA, layered cake, solo 401ks. I showed lots of case studies, private money lending, partnering accounts, debt financing. All of these particular topics I have built out into different modules, video modules that you can take a deeper dive into. And this is what we call our Ultimate Self-Directed IRA Starter Pack. Don't go to our website and try to get this because you'll get charged for it. And because you're on this webinar, you're getting a free copy of this. It's all digital and there's no upsell. There's no additional annual subscription. This is courtesy to everybody that's on the call. And
we appreciate that.
Craig, on behalf of Connected Investors, this was something that he wanted to make sure that all of their members get as a benefit of being a member. And so that's what we're doing for you. I'll try to post the link for you, but you have the QR code in there that you can download it. Again, there's no charge to it. You don't have to put a credit card in. And look forward to you joining the course and getting yourself more educated. And if we can help you going forward, we're happy to do that at Equity Trust.
I'll be joining the course myself. Real quick, just so you all know, will it be okay if we share the QR code in our follow-up once everybody has had an opportunity to go through the sessions? We'd like to send a little marketing piece to say thanks for joining. Can we send that code out to them?
At 100%. Yeah, you can share that. That's not a problem.
Awesome. So if you get a chance, scan it right now, folks. If you don't get a chance to scan it right now, I'll make sure that we send out a follow-up email reintroducing John to everybody, thanking you for showing up. We'll also have a link as a replay to the video. So I'm a little gobsmacked. There's a lot of information. I wanted to clarify one thing. You were talking about the self-directed 401k, and the requirement was no W-2. So if there's just a regular person on the call, they don't have an S corp, they're not a business, they can't just create a self-directed one. They have to get that first. Am I understanding that correct?
Interestingly, no. That's a great question. So here's a perfect example. Real estate agents, not all have an LLC or an LLC taxes and S corporation. They're just doing business as themselves. So let's say I'm a real estate agent and I have $150,000 in net self-employment earnings from my commissions. Maybe I got $200,000 in commissions, $50,000 in expenses. I got $150,000 that I'm reporting on a Schedule C and Schedule SE self-employment. I'm paying my Social Security tax on $150,000. So $150,000 is the number I'm going to use to compute my contributions to my solo 401k plan. So I'm going to be able to get the full $70,000 in there. And I just set up the solo 401k plan as the John Bowens solo 401k plan. I don't have to form an LLC or an S corporation. And I'm so glad you asked that, Craig, because I can't tell you how many people go to seminars or other educational events and somebody up there is talking about whatever. They usually don't know what they're talking about half the time, unfortunately. And they tell people, oh, first thing you got to do is form an LLC or an S corp. Then you go set up a solo 401k plan. It's absolutely wrong. Now, maybe it makes sense for them to have an LLC or an LLC tax as an S corporation, but it may not. For example, independent contractors. I work with a lot of people in the technology space where they're an independent contractor, or some doctors. I have some doctors that work full time, but then they pick up extra work at an emergency room, and they're making $100,000 to $150,000 a year as a self-employed person, independent contractor. They just opened the solo 401k plan in their name, such as the John Bowens solo 401k plan.
Perfect. I love that. Awesome. And then Latasha did have one other question, and I'm not sure that you've answered it. So is it possible to roll over traditional self-directed into a solo 401k? Did you explain that you can do that? Yes?
Absolutely. Great question, Latasha. So interestingly, SEP IRAs can get rolled over into a solo 401k plan. Happens all the time. Your traditional IRAs, your rollover IRAs, 401ks from old employers. If you have Roth money in a 401k, see, some people actually have a Roth portion of their 401k or a Roth component to their 401k at their job. And when they leave there, they can roll that over into the Roth portion of the solo 401k, even better. The only account type that you can't roll over into the solo 401k plan is a Roth IRA. Unfortunately, the way the law is currently, if you have a Roth IRA, it's always a Roth IRA. But all of those other accounts, SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, rollover IRAs, traditional IRAs, those all can get rolled over into the solo 401k plan.
Wow. Great. Awesome. Well, goodness, John, I'm a little gobsmacked. A lot of great information. I definitely going to be scanning the QR code and getting that course myself. We did go a little bit over. We started a little bit late, so I wanted to give you all an opportunity to ask any additional questions. Actually, is it possible I think maybe did I ask that? Is it possible? So Eddie says, is it possible for me to take funds out of my IRA to invest into an investor's development pool where I get, he's talking about, that sounds like he's still talking about a syndication. And then this would be directly tied to a lien on a specific property and then rolled over into another property ad infinitum.
Yeah, so I think that's a good question. And I don't see why not. Eddie, if you're investing in a deal, and it sounds like what it is it's what we'll call a fractionalized deed of trust, where you're investing in a deal alongside other investors, other partners, and it's structured as a fractionalized deed of trust or fractionalized note. That would be okay as long as the borrower isn't you or a child or a disqualified person. You're fine. If you're investing in a third party's deal, that might be structured as a loan. It might be where you're investing in an LLC and then that LLC is acquiring the property or is doing some sort of mezzanine financing. Based on what you're telling me, I don't have any heartburn about that. I think you can absolutely accomplish that.
Yeah. So Severine asked the question, is there a minimum requirement of income and other qualifications to become a private lender?
From an IRA perspective, no. And I would even say outside of an IRA, not necessarily.
No.
Just a matter
I know folks that are lenders that are not banks, they're private lenders. Yeah.
Exactly. Just like, myself, I'm a lender. I look at the deal. I underwrite the deal. It's all my money. I'm not brokering money. I'm not bringing in other people. It's my money. I could partner my IRAs together like I showed you. Interestingly, I could even partner my IRA money with my non-IRA money. I have to be careful when I do it. I have to follow the pro rata rules. But, for example, Craig, let's say I got a $300,000 deal and I got 150,000 in my IRA and 150,000 personally. And so I say, hey, I'd like to enjoy some of this money prior to retirement. I want to put 150 in personally, 150 with my IRA. So the promissory note and mortgage, it's going to be one promissory note and mortgage, and the lender will have my IRA 50% and me personally 50%. And then all the interest and principal just flows back in 50% to me, which of course is going to be taxable, and then 50% to my IRA, which of course is going to be non-taxable. We even see folks do that with buying properties. Usually they'll form an LLC, a multi-member LLC, and they'll partner in their different accounts to
Right.
acquire property. But that's something that folks, of course, can consider as well.
Awesome. Very good. Harold asked if there was talking still occurring. Yes, there is, Harold. Thank you. So, well, it looks like, well, we've done a great job. You did a great job, John. I really appreciate all of this amazing information. Again, guys, the code is on the screen, so please feel free to scan it. If for whatever reason you're not able to, we'll make sure that we get that to you in the next few days. Look, it's Tuesday night. It's 9:30 Eastern. I'm going to let you go, John. I really appreciate you sharing and spending time with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. If everybody would say thank you to John, I would really appreciate that. And the questions, you're all incredible, active, action and questions. And I hope this encouraged you. And my hope, John, is that you have a deluge of folks that are inquiring about what you do. This special offer at the very least. So, yeah. I hope that everybody has an amazing then rest of their Tuesday night. Man, I'm gonna do it right now. So David says the link above charges $199 for this. Let me do.
Shouldn't. Let's test that
Let's
out.
just do a little quick test. Yeah, let's see what it looks like. I'm gonna do one right. Oh, you took it away. I can't do it.
Yeah, what happened with that? So the QR code, let's snap that and make sure that glad they brought that up.
Yeah, thank you, David, for bringing that up. Yeah.
As you could tell, Craig, technology has not been my friend today, but I did take the snapshot and it did work. So yeah, best thing to do is, I guess I'll give it another minute. If you could do the QR code, that's going to be the best option instead of using my link that
And
I posted.
I just went in just fine and it started. So I did the code and it included my phone number. So it seemed to be fine for me as well. So maybe just go in a couple of times, guys, redo it. It might make you log in and use I had to create like a really quick little account. So, but again, if you don't get this code, if it doesn't work right now, we'll make sure that the code that we do send out is solid. In the next couple of days, I'll definitely follow up with that, make sure that Andy takes care of that for you. So, so again, I will thank everybody for showing up. Harold and Andy and David and Howard and Eddie, great questions. Diana and Latasha, Shauna, thank you guys for showing up tonight. We'll see you all again in 2 weeks with another amazing session. I'll let you go tonight, John. Thanks so much for spending some time with us. I truly appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate everything. Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys.
Have a good night.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night. Take care.